It's no secret to those of you who follow me on social media that Megalo was one of my favorite shows of the spring 2018 season, and arguably it was the best show of the entire season. Its music was incredible, the characters were lovable, and the art direction was some of the best we've seen in recent years. On top of this, it also holds the classic sports anime themes of defying the odds and working past your own limits despite what better players say. But what if I were to tell you that there was a deeper meaning to Megalo, that it represented something truly profound which took the show to another level, making it so much more than just another sports anime about boxing? I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out on this one. Megalo was a show about struggling with your identity. You may call me an idiot, but every major character from Joe to Yukiko had their own struggle with their name. What did it mean to be Joe? Who was Yuri? And did the Shirato name carry Yukiko as much as she wanted it to? All of these characters had their own demons and skeletons in their closet that they needed to address. For some, it became the driving force, and for others, it ate them alive and clouded their own decision-making. Hell, the series even started with Yuri asking Joe what his name was so he could have something on his tombstone, to which Joe responded, "They don't make tombstones for stray dogs." This line sets the tempo for the entire show, letting the audience know that the show was really about making a name for yourself so that you don't end up as a stray dog. But we can't talk about names in this show without talking about the character who started out without one. The overall development of Joe's name can be tracked in 3 stages. The first stage began in the first episode, where he went by only his ring name, Junk Dog. Him becoming Gearless Joe marked the beginning of stage 2, the figure who people rallied behind because who doesn't love a good underdog story? And finally, we have the third stage, where he became the champion of Megalonia, besting the people who had defined identities. As he progressed through each change, he became stronger, but also more sympathetic, more willing to fight for what he believed in. The foundation of Joe's identity rested on the fact that he didn't really have one. Starting out in illegal fighting rings, he only went by Junk Dog, and he didn't care that that was the only name people knew him by. He then went on to create a name for himself with the help of his team in the form of Gearless Joe, the man who fought in the ring without the use of gear and was still successful because, as Coach Nanbu said time and time again, it's not the gear, it's the person behind it. He used that idea to climb his way to the top and claimed the title of Megalonia champion. His actions spoke louder than his name, which was something we saw Yuri struggle with as the series progressed. When we were introduced to Yuri, we saw him as the champion, Joe's perfect foil for the entire series. He was the best Megalo boxer alive, the champion of Team Shirato, the man who had never lost a single match. However, as Joe became a legitimate threat, Yuri started to question himself. He questioned, who was he boxing and competing for? Was it for himself? Or was it for Team Shirato? He came to the conclusion that he wasn't competing for himself, but rather he was doing it for Yukiko. The second he took off the integrated gear was the moment that he came to that exact conclusion. He was finally going to fight Joe on equal terms, person to person, no gear attached, and in an even more powerful moment, it was the moment Yuri tore off the Shirato name from the back of his jacket, which symbolized the end of Yuri's sponsorship. The piece of branding that he was tied to for an entire series was suddenly gone. This was the point where we actually got to see who Yuri was. No longer was he boxing for the Shirato Corporation or even for Yukiko and what she wanted. He was boxing for himself, to give him the opportunity to box someone he felt would challenge him, to give him the rival that he always wanted. And speaking of Yukiko, she was one of the few characters in Megalo that didn't get what she wanted. Her goal of using Megalonia to promote the integrated gear technology ultimately failed as Yuri did not use their gear in the finals. This is largely due to her struggle with the family name that she carried. Her grandfather presented her the opportunity to become the CEO of the Shirato Corporation and allowed her to use the pre-established Shirato name to create a tournament that showcased the technology that only their company could provide. However, she struggled with this. Internal company politics with her brother presented a roadblock not only to becoming the CEO of this company, but in the decision that needed to be made to choose the final fighter for Megalonia. And most notably, she struggled with Joe and Nanbu, who were stealing the show right from under her feet. She had no intention of letting Joe, a gearless fighter, enter a tournament that was supposed to show off gear technology. And more importantly, she had to make the decision to not disqualify them as Joe was an illegal entry. In her meeting with Coach Nanbu, she was presented with two options: out Joe and Nanbu for being liars and disqualify them from Megalonia, and not get the match she needed to show off the technology, or let them compete and risk them undermining the entire point of the tournament. No matter what she did, her reputation would have been thrown into the gutter. Her intention was to fix the tournament and have Yuri win Megalonia. She wanted him to dominate, to show off her technology, to propel Shirato into a new age. But without a willing boxer, there is no gear. We all know the fighting in Megalobox was fantastic. The fight choreography was incredible, and every time someone got punched, the audience felt the physical and emotional weight behind that punch. But without the people who struggled, without the names that they carried, without the desire to be the best, to be the person that they could be proud of for what they've accomplished, Megalobox would fall flat on its face and be yet another generic sports anime. Megalobox as a whole goes above and beyond that. It gave us characters that achieve their goals and are content with just that. Because Megalobox was never about the glory of winning. Megalobox was about creating a name for yourself by doing the things only you can do, one step at a time.